All right, guys. So Florida Atlantic at Michigan State, -13 in this one. This is a little bit of a interesting line here, or a spread here. I do think Michigan State is going to come out ahead in this one and get the win here, but there are definitely some things Michigan State has to do in order for that to happen. You give them the poor
Mhm.
year they had this year. Jonathan Smith is coming in, going to try to turn things around, but it's not necessarily a given the very first game he'll have everything fixed. So I want to get you guys' thoughts on this Michigan State team. What are some things that maybe Michigan State struggled with last year that they need to correct specifically in this game to not only win, but also maybe give the fans some optimism about what's going on and the new culture or maybe the new style of play? Curt, I know that you probably are pretty familiar with what's going to go on the defensive side of the ball, so we'll let you go first on this one. What are your thoughts about Michigan State?
Yeah. So you look at last year's struggles that they had, and it was mainly on defense. They couldn't stop anything, giving up almost 400 yards a game on average. When Joe Rossi took over as the Gopher defensive coordinator mid-season a few years back, the first thing he did was kind of simplify things and stop the big plays from happening. I think that's going to be pretty pivotal for this opening game, just to make sure you take care of business. Tom Herman didn't really work out at Texas, but has experience and success of drawing up plays as an offensive coordinator. At Ohio State, he was pretty good. And even under Texas still had a pretty good offense while he was there. So I think just making sure your guys are all in sync and keeping, Florida Atlantic's players in front of you is going to be pivotal, just to make sure, you don't start, running all over the place with your, not knowing where your eyes are and whatnot in this first game. I know it didn't seem like they brought in as much help on the defensive side as they kind of imported all of Oregon State's offense. It seemed like, at least when the head coach came over. So I think the defense will be a little bit slower of a turnover, but yeah, as long as they keep them in front of them, I'm not too worried for Michigan State in this game. I think eventually they'll wear them down, just being a bigger, more physical team. So I like Michigan State to get the dub, but yeah, I think Joe Rossi, and I think he'll do a good job there. I think you just got to simplify it for him and let their athletes go make plays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know Joe Rossi's going to come in. He was actually one of the keys for me here. I mean, he's going to come in and correct me if I'm wrong, Curt, but he's going to have them playing more man coverage. They were playing a lot of zone last year, and Joe Rossi, I mean, he really goes for the man coverage, correct?
Well, yeah, I think he tailors it to his personnel pretty well. So last year when we were struggling covering stuff over the middle, the safeties played a lot more zone trying to help out there. So he'll switch it up quite a bit. But yeah, if they're confident in their corners, then for sure he'll go man and mix it up on them.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. They definitely need to limit the big plays. They were last year second worst in the Big Ten. The only team worse than them in giving up big plays was Illinois, and then they were second worst grade of all Power Five teams on PFF in coverage. The second worst coverage PFF graded team last year. So definitely need to improve in that area. We got Fisherman coming back. He says bet the over. Childs. I am huge on Childs. Zach, if you have any thoughts, we'll get to that here in just a second. And Christopher also says Rutgers. Yes, we just got done talking about Rutgers, Christopher. So if you need to go back, listen about those Scarlet Knights. We were high on them. Zach, your thoughts? What's something Michigan State needs to do better this game than what they did last year?
It's interesting you just mentioned Illinois, because the one data point from a year ago that I wanted to look at was in FAU's schedule, and they played Illinois, and it was close at the end. I think it was 26-17. And if you take a closer look at that game, the beginning of it, FAU jumped up early on them because of short fields. I don't know if it was turnovers or just bad special teams, what it was, but they had short fields and they were able to capitalize on that. And then Illinois was able to really score. I mean, they held them scoreless till the end of the game. So I mean, it wasn't as close as the scoreboard suggested. And so as I thought about this game, I'm like, I think keys to the game here is Aiden Childs playing within the system, right? Like, you're excited about his dynamicism, the crazy things he can do with his legs. But the thing he can't do is turnovers and backbreaking sacks, giving FAU the short fields, because I think while the defense is a work in progress, I don't think Florida Atlantic has the gusto to score regularly on a Big Ten team. They can score if they get opportunities from a quarterback who wants to make a play and turns the ball over. So I think he's got to play within the system, which I think will bode well for them moving forward. I also think Nathan Carter and Karen Lynch Adams have a huge role to play in this. Can that, you said it earlier, JR, the trenches matter. And can this running game kind of take some pressure off of Childs so that he can make plays when he wants to rather than when he has to?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. My second one was improve the passing game, and Aiden Childs is going to be a huge part of that, right? And if he is going to be able to do that, he's going to have time in the pocket, and he's going to have to make good decisions. So they last year, Michigan State was the 7th worst PFF pass blocking graded team in the nation. So definitely was not a good pass blocking team last year. They're going to need to improve in that area to really make some noise this season. My key for what they weren't able to do very well last year, guys, is third downs. They have got to convert on third downs. Not only do they need to convert, but they also need to set themselves up well and make sure. I mean, it's going to be huge with Nathan Carter and Katron Lynch Allen. They're going to have to get good yardage. Of course, the offensive line is going to have to block for them well, but they're going to have to get good yardage on first and second down whenever they choose to run them, so that way they're set up well. And Aiden Childs doesn't have to be that superhero where he is throwing picks because he's trying to launch the ball, 12 yards down the field because it's 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 9 or something like that. So they were the 3rd worst of all Power 5 last year teams in third down conversion rate, 11th worst in the nation. So it was really, really bad on third down for Michigan State last year. But I do think that Jack Velling coming in as their new tight end is going to be huge for them. I think he's going to be a big target for Aiden Childs, and he's going to be somebody that they're going to scheme up quick to get him the ball if they do get in those third and manageable situations. Here's my goal. All right, here's my goal for what I want to see. I want to see 0 sacks on third down. Not necessarily saying you got to go over 50% or anything like that, but 0 sacks on third down and 0 turnovers on third down as well. Take care of the ball, protect your quarterback, and if you know what, if somebody drops it, it is what it is. You live with it. You move on to another day, another down, and go from there. So, Curt, you have any thoughts on the third down or the passing game that me and Zach mentioned?
I completely agree with all of your thoughts on that. One thing I wanted to bring up that I forgot, I don't know, this was a national writer writing on this game, so I don't know if he was being hyperbole, if we actually looked it up. He said FAU brought in like 36 transfers, so which is a ton of transfers. So recommendation would be maybe dial up some pressure and try and cause some confusion early. They probably not all synced up the first game if you're bringing in that many new players on your squad, in FAU's case. So that would be my key to the game. If you're, again, I'm focused on Rossi's defense. Just I want him to do well, even though he left us. Appreciate what he did here. So rooting for him to do well.
There. He was at Minnesota for like nearly 10 years, wasn't he?
Yeah, he came over. He was on PJ's initial staff. He was just the linebacker coach under.
Right.
Gosh, I can't remember the guy's first name that we fired midseason. He was brutal, but anyway, yeah, took over, did a great job. So I'm rooting for him to do well here. I think he will, and cause confusion early because it's a lot of new players on the other team side of the ball too that they're going up against. So
totally. Zach, any final thoughts on Michigan State, Florida Atlantic before we move on to Wisconsin?
No, I think you guys have hit it well. So I think that third down stat is really big, JR. That was really good.
Thanks, man. I do my research,
Yeah.
I neglect my family all Sunday and say, I got to research for the show. Okay. All right. Leave me alone. Make dinner? No. Do the dishes? No. All right. Got to get ready for the podcast. Read you a book, daughter? No. All right. I'm not quite that